welcome Paul Balson.
Okay, let's get started. Since none of you are members of Pro Advocate Group yet, okay, there's something I need to tell you, and that is that our legal system is so screwed up that if I came here today to try to give you legal advice, I would be involved in the unauthorized practice of law. It doesn't matter whether you get paid or not. Did you know that? Now, you're lucky because you're in the Fifth Circuit. Because in the Fifth Circuit, we fought the battle. The battle is that there's two things that we can tell you, so it's not unauthorized practice of law. There's two provisions, two disclosures. The two disclosures, if you look at the first page, past the title page, is that if I tell you that I'm not a licensed attorney, okay, and that usage, that what I tell you is still not a substitute for a licensed attorney, okay, then I'm okay. We're okay. We're all legal. Now the problem with this is that this is only for the Fifth Circuit. If you go back to Chicago, or wherever else that you're from, and you try to give legal advice to people, okay, then you're involved in what? The unauthorized practice of law. Isn't that crazy or not? Because I thought we had First Amendment rights in this country, freedom of speech and press and so forth, right? Now, so there is an alternative, which we're going to talk about today, but remember, you're not members of Pro Advocate Group, so now you've got the disclosures, right? Okay, so we're okay. All right, what's the best kept secret in the legal field? It's absolutely true, but it's the best kept secret in the legal field. Well, that's another one, yes. No, I think the best kept secret is there's a public domain and there's a private domain. Okay? Now, you know about the public domain. In the public domain, you have to be licensed. You have to follow registrations, regulations, right? And if you don't, what happens? There's even severe criminal penalties, even jail time. Do you all understand that unauthorized practice of medicine is a criminal felony in the state of Texas? And when I walked through the door this afternoon, you all just scared me to death. In fact, I wanted to turn around and walk out because I still felt so bad for you, afraid for you, okay? Now, the irony of the whole thing is what? Is that there's an alternative. See, in the 39 years of research that I've been involved in this thing, we found over 70 U.S. Supreme Court decisions that say you can operate in what? In the private domain. And be outside the jurisdiction of all state and federal authorities and law enforcement. And no cases to the contrary.
All right.
See, most areas of law you're going to find what? Cases on both sides. I mean, you argue over here and then you have somebody to argue over here. Well, here's the case, because the legal profession, the lawyers say, you know, when they say, well, you can't do this thing, adulterums, you know, misleading you and all that, I say, well, give me one case where a court has ruled against a properly set up and functioning private medical association, or any association, private association. Show me one case. Well, I've been saying that for 30 years, and guess what? No, they must not like me because they won't give me one case. And yet I've got 70 cases. Now, why is that important that I say U.S. Supreme Court? Well, in my research, see, I went back and said, well, what is the supreme law of the land in this country? Do you all know? Anybody know? If I said, what is the supreme law of the land, what would you say? Oh, I'm sorry, sir. You're so outdated. That was in 1802. Okay. What happened in 1803? Marbury versus Madison. What did Marbury versus Madison say? Which is all affirmed with Cooper versus Aaron in 1955, okay? Well, the Supreme Court in Marbury versus Madison said, it's our interpretation of the Constitution, the supreme law of the land, not the wording of the Constitution. It's what we say the Constitution says, not what the Constitution said. Now, that's a lot different, right? Now, again, why it's so important when I say, why do we know we have freedom of association? Is because I've got 70, not constitutions, I've got 70 U.S. Supreme Court, what? Decisions that say we can do what we do. So tell me what's wrong with that. Okay? Now, that right that I just told you, remember, we're outside the jurisdiction in the private domain, right? Outside the jurisdiction of all state, and did you catch that? All state and federal. Did you, FDA, did you get that? FDA, federal, okay? And laws enforcement agencies is not an absolute. Okay, I'm sorry. The Supreme Court in these 70 cases say, if you're doing something in your private association that's a clear and present danger of substantive evil, yes, they can come in and do what? Investigate you and prosecute you, okay? But what you're all doing is so far above that threshold that I don't even want to talk about it, right? Now, another important part of these Supreme Court cases, these 70 cases, is they say that this principle now is not confined to any field of human interest. So what does that mean? Well, that could be the legal area, which is the type of association that we formed back in 1973. And by the way, I can't go on here until I introduce what I call my legal dream team, okay? I didn't do this thing alone. There's a lot of other people that worked with me on this and supported me. I think I'll probably need more support than anything, because nobody else would probably get that directly involved. They're too scared, right? Or not. But my sweet wife, 48 years, I wish she would stand up, because she helped make this thing happen. Okay, and I have a daughter, Carla, who started working with me in 2003. Okay, and it really made this thing happen the last 10 years or so. Okay, Carla Dahlstrom. And then Tom Campitelli has been working with us about 10 years, and he's really helpful. And we've got some other good people too, which I won't mention today, but they're there too, working every day. But it takes more than one to make it happen. We've got a lot of good members out there. I mean, I did actually try to get a whole bunch of members since 1973, because, you know, I wanted to do the job. I wanted to make sure that we got the job done and we're successful. So I didn't try to get, 10,000 members or something. So since 1973, we've got about 1,500 members, okay? So, some people don't think that's that many, that's fine, okay? It's something that we got the job done. It allowed us to do the research. It allowed us to get the experience. See, when I started in 1973, the Bar Association of Texas didn't appreciate what I was doing. I think you understand that, right?
Yeah.
So I was challenged 4 different times by the Texas State Bar. They come in with that Dahlstrom, what does he do? He just unauthorized practice of law, that's all he do. And the irony was that I was living in Bryan College Station for 30 years, back at that time, and the president of the Bar Association was from Bryan, Texas. And so one day he called me up and he said, Carl, would you come in and I'd just like to talk to you for a while, okay? I said, well, that's fine. And he said, of course, I was a lot younger back then, right? He said, well, you look like a nice young man. Why don't you just go to law school? In fact, I could arrange for that, he said, and get your license, and we don't have all these problems that we're having. And I said, well, that may be, but the problem is what? Why wouldn't I want to go back and get my license, be a licensed attorney? Because there's nothing worse than a disbarred attorney. Right? And our philosophies are what? Completely opposite, different, okay? Anyway, 2 times we went to court, 2 times I beat him in court, 2 times, a lot of letter writing back and forth, okay? Then finally they kind of gave up. Well, in about 2004, I had a lot of alternative medicine doctors that were part of our program because, you know, we deal with the IRS and judgment-proofing assets, and there's a list of them at your last page there. I won't go into that now. And these doctors were having a lot of problems with the medical board. And so they said, well, what can you do for us on that? And I said, well, same thing we do with the IRS. We challenge what? Challenge jurisdiction, authority, legal standing, and so forth. And so when we checked the medical board members or directors, we found out there's 19 of them, okay? So how many out of the 19 do you think had taken their oath of office? I'm sorry? No? About 3. So this doctor had 10 counts against him, 10 complaints against him, okay? And then they were threatening to take his license away. 3 months later, guess what? All the charges were dismissed. Because what? What do you think we argued? That the board didn't have what? Jurisdiction and authority. They had no more jurisdiction and authority than your neighbor's grandmother, right? So why do you let that happen? And we found even things as simple as traffic tickets. Did you realize that most police officers haven't taken their oath of office? Have you ever checked it out sometime if you get a speeding ticket and see how it works? Okay. See, we'd already done all this with the IRS, fighting the IRS. Well, that brings up another thing, see. So while I'm doing this at Legal Association, well, first off, yeah, the Bar Association tried to put us out of business. Okay. Then the State Securities Board tried to put us out of business, saying that these memberships that we're selling were securities. Well, that couldn't be any further from the truth. So I supplied all the information on that, and finally they gave up on that one, okay? Then the FBI come out, they're investigating us, and then we got other organizations. Well, dumb me, I should have stuck with the Legal Association. I've got a master's degree in physics and half of a doctorate, okay? And I like to be kind of an inventor, okay? So I invented a firefighting gel at the time that the Kuwait oil fires were going. And it worked. In fact, we went to Kuwait and put out a fire in about a half an hour instead of several weeks. Okay. Well, we sold some stock from our private corporation, dumb me, knowing that they would try to do everything they could to try to get you on the security side, right? And we raised about $2 million, okay? And so my board of directors decided that they were going to do a hostile corporate takeover. I don't know if you're familiar with what that is. Well, I should have given it up and just gave it to them, all right? But I fought back. Because, say, hey, I'm in the legal business, I know how to fight battles. So I tried to fight back. So they went to the SEC and complained that I'd violated securities laws, which I hadn't. But anyway, so Securities and Exchange Commission investigated everything we did, and here's what they found wrong. They said that, because there's three things that you can do to keep it private instead of having to go public. Less than 35 shareholders, which we had. Okay, we didn't advertise publicly, right? And they're all shareholders within the state of Texas, okay, which I had, all the state of Texas. But some of the shareholders were corporations, partnerships, and trusts. Okay, so they looked at those partnerships and trusts, which were less than 35, and they found out that some of those investors that invested in our company, they had shareholders across state lines. So they counted those shareholders as our shareholders because we had allowed that main shareholder, that corporation, to be an investor. Now that I researched the law and found out that that's the first time in the history of this country and the world that anybody was ever prosecuted or charged with a criminal offense because they had an investor, that they had investors across state lines, okay? Make a long story short, we went to trial. Of course, a jury trial. And did the jury understand the issues? No. Okay. So I was found guilty. Okay. I went to a prison camp for 5.5 years. But I think it worked out as a positive because during that time, they had a law library there. Okay. I was probably the only person. Yeah, I was probably the only inmate that was at the law library. Okay. So I had a whole law library to myself, okay? And so I had done a lot of research on First and 14th Amendment Association, but I said, well, now's the time to really do what? Because you got plenty of time, as you know, right? So now I really researched this thing, and that's how I found, most of all those 70 cases, all right? And a lot of other things about that I researched that found it made a much, much stronger program and other levels we have. So if you get on the internet, of course, you're going to find that negative stuff. But I'm just telling you that it was a positive thing for me if you look at it from that aspect, because now, see, the point is I want to have the integrity to go out there. If I'm going to tell you how to do something, I want to make sure that it's nearly 100% what? Correct, right? That scares me. If anything scares me, that scares me to death, that I tell you something wrong and then it doesn't work out for you, okay? But it worked out. And again, one thing, I don't know if you would react this way or not, because there's so much lack of knowledge and also the air of omission. So you don't hear this from anybody else out there. Well, why aren't the lawyers and the law schools and everybody else telling you about freedom of association? It's the air of omission, right? And most of them, what they tell you is they tell you don't do it, because you get in a lot of trouble, Well, it's just the opposite, of course, right? In one case I was explaining a few minutes ago, in the public domain, what you're doing right here today, and I don't want to scare you or anything, but when I walk through the door, what you're doing right here in the state of Texas is a criminal felony, okay? You're practicing medicine without a license, which is a criminal felony in the state. Now, you can make that the opposite of that by what? By having a private membership association and only dealing with and working on private members. Then it's not only a right, it's a protected right. It's just the opposite. And instead of having that over your shoulder to worry about, think about what happened in the state of Arkansas when the U.S. Supreme Court said there's going to be integration in the schools. What did the governor of Arkansas do? You remember? Well, he refused, right? And they sent in the National Guard. Well, that's what I'm telling you. You've got 70 U.S. Supreme Court decisions that say what you're going to do. So if what? If the FDA or the Attorney General of Texas came in this afternoon and shut you all down and took you to jail, there's nothing you could do about it. But what if you were a private medical association only dealing with private members? And they did that. Well, then you call the, what? You call in the National Guard. You have as much right, right? Or not? Do you understand what I'm saying or not?
Yes.
Because, you know, what we're talking about, you know, we may smile and we laugh and everything. This is really serious business, right? Because healthcare in this country, as you know, is under attack. And the only way we're going to survive, I think, is alternative medicine. That's my opinion. What you're doing. Is the answer to the future. There's no doubt about that. Right? Okay. Now you understand, though, that the right that we're talking about here is not an absolute. Remember that? Well, what is the test? Clear and present danger of substantive evil. I'm sorry, that crosses the line. Okay. Now, why can we surmise that we're not going to cross the line? Well, because, in fact, that was a question of an attorney, a licensed attorney in Oklahoma one time. He says, well, he says, and all the things that you're getting people set up, he said, is the clear and present danger of substantive evil. I said, well, how so? And I said, okay. I said, do you drink alcohol? Well, yeah. You're in Oklahoma. Oklahoma has a lot of what they call dry counties. Do you understand what I mean by dry counties?
Yep.
Okay. And I said, when you drink alcohol, you have to, and the conversation stopped right there. Because what was he doing? He was going to a club, signing a little membership card, paying $4 to drink alcohol. And yet he's telling me what? That what we're doing is a clear and present danger of substantive evil. Now, I don't know what you think about alcohol, but if anything's a clear and present danger of substantive evil, alcohol's a lot closer than what you're doing. I hope. Do you understand what I'm saying? Anyway, conversation ended right there. See? And here's another aspect of it, too, that I think that you would understand. I had this naturopath, and he's so private and secret that he does his practice in his basement. He's up north, okay, we have basements, okay? And you have this code thing on his door that you got to push these certain buttons in order for the thing to even ring the bell, okay? So he comes, answers, he lets you in. Right, then you got to know what to say and so forth and so on. And so unofficially, he's telling me his naturopath methods are even curing cancer. But officially speaking, what? He doesn't cure this, and he doesn't treat this, and he doesn't do this. And so one day I said, well, you're nothing but a big hypocrite. See, you're telling me what? That unofficially what? You can cure cancer, but you're saying officially, I don't even treat it, I don't even cure it, I don't do anything. Now, that would bother me, I don't know. If I was in an occupation or a profession, I would want to be able to say exactly what I'm doing and be truthful about it, right or not? Yeah. Okay. So now with a private association, what can he do? In fact, we set him up an association, okay? So now he's on the internet saying that his practice does what? For private members only, right? He can cure, he's got members that he's cured cancer. What's wrong with that? You don't have to be a hypocrite about it, right? Just like when they always accuse Dahlstrom of what? Unauthorized practice of medicine, unauthorized practice of law, right? And I say, well, I'm guilty, but not of unauthorized. I'm guilty of authorized practice of law to private members where? Within my private membership association in the private domain. Okay? So what's wrong with that? And I'm not ashamed of that, am I? Or not? In fact, I've been fighting the battles for 39 years. I'm just the guy said the other day, he said, well, Carl, he must be a pretty smart guy. So no, don't say that. I just think I'm dumb enough to spend 39 years researching this stuff and trying it out, right? You don't know anybody that dumb, do you? No. Okay, then on that second page, it talks about, maybe it would be good for you to understand the difference between when I say you may have committed a criminal felony in the state of Texas, but that's only a certain type of felony. It's what they call a mala prohibita felony. Do you know what a mala prohibita felony is? Rather than a mala in se? See, now the association does not protect you from mala in se crimes. What is a mala in se crime? Well, that's like murder, rape, robbery, things like that, right?
Evil in itself.
So you cannot form an association to do what?
Kill.
Kill people.
Steal.
But you see, what's happened in this country is, back in the 1800s, if you recall, we didn't have medical licenses, right? I mean, you could hang up your shingle as a doctor, right? And you didn't have to have a license, did you?
No.
Or not?
No.
But then they start passing what? Licensing laws, right? And then after that, they passed laws that said what? Well, if you try to practice medicine without the license, we'll make that a criminal felony offense. Do you see the difference or not?
Yeah.
That's what we're protecting you from, okay? And it works for all modalities. It works for all types of practice. In fact, earlier I was telling you the story about, there was a Wisconsin licensed medical doctor. He got the bright idea, why don't we have a one-stop clinic? Would that be neat or not? Where you have a medical doctor, a massage therapist, a chiropractor, a nutritionist, what else? Acupuncturist, yeah. And have all in one stop deal, all in one clinic. And I mean, 2 weeks later after he did that, the Wisconsin Medical Board, what did they do? Said, if you don't stop that, doing what you're doing, we're going to take your medical license from you. We're going to revoke your license. So he calls me up and I said, Carl, what am I going to do? They're going to try to take my license. I said, well, I already told you. Remember, you must have forgot the conversation. I told you should have set up what?
Private membership. Private
membership medical association. And they all become members of that. They all have their modalities there and their practitioners and professions. Now so we did that. That was 2.5 years ago. Guess what? They've never heard from what? The Wisconsin Medical Board. Why not? His lawyer said what? They're still going to take your license. But he said it doesn't matter whether you've got a private association or not. Okay? Now, of all the challenges, and we've got some challenges here we've handed out to you, I think the best challenge we've ever had was precision herbs. You can look up on the internet website. It's precisionherbs.com, okay? A company at the time was in the public domain, operating as an LLC, right? Manufacturing herbs. Dr. Overman, he's now deceased, but he designed herbs to cure cancer. And it was open about it. Gave seminars on it. Maybe some of it is, I don't know. Making about, or not making, but grossing about $2 million a year, okay? With great success. A lot of distributors around the world, okay? So what happened one day? 6 FDA agents swooped in on him and did what? Shut him down. I mean, flat. Told him, if you don't stop doing this, you're going to go to prison for life. Right? So he calls up a New York law firm, Washington DC law firm and said, hey, we've just been shut down to the FDA. Anything you can do to help us? And they told him, if the FDA wants to shut you down, there's nothing that anybody's going to be able to do for you. Right? I don't know how he found out about Carl Dahlstrom and Paravity Group, but somehow he did. Called me up and said, Carl, can you help me? I said, absolutely. But there's two different ways we're going to help you. Number one is, just like we fight the IRS, we're going to challenge jurisdiction, authority, and legal standing of the FDA agents, of course. Okay? And then we're going to get you involved in a what? Private membership association. Okay? So we wrote 7 letters to the FDA in the next couple months, challenging different areas, procedures, and so forth. And the first letter that went out is just like the medical board I was telling you about. We made sure that the agent, the 6 agents, we determined whether or not they took their oath of office or not. And guess what we found out?
None of them.
None of the 6 agents had taken an oath of office. So what does that mean?
No
They
jurisdiction.
mean they absolutely have no authority, jurisdiction, or anything to even investigate precision herbs. Now, we had another doctor one time we did a similar thing for, and he went to his friend attorney and told him that Paravity Group was going to make sure that these investigators had their oath of office, and that attorney told him back, he said, well, you might try to do that, he said, but that's just not the way we practice law here. Well, wait a minute, how do you practice law? I thought you were supposed to defend what? Your client, right? Well, here, okay, here's another interesting thing that people hardly don't believe. If you go to the legal encyclopedias, if you know what that is, and the court decisions, by court decision, okay, if you hire an attorney and pay him an upfront fee, retainer, okay, who is his first priority and responsibility? Where have you been? That's not what the courts say. Are you going to believe yourself or the courts? The courts say the court is his first duty and responsibility. Okay? So what's his second duty and responsibility? Now remember, you're the client, you pay the money. Okay, what's his second duty and responsibility? The public. What's the third duty and responsibility?
His wife.
Yeah. Well, you might as well. Well, himself as an officer of the court. He has to put that above the client. And what's the fourth duty and responsibility?
Finally, the clients.
The client. By golly, you finally got one right. Isn't that terrific or not? Now, you might want to consider that when you hire an attorney. I'm not saying don't hire an attorney. I'm not against attorneys. Okay? They have their place. But you need to understand the relationship and what you're getting yourself into. And remember, they're not going to recommend First and 14th Amendment associations. You know why? You know what? In fact, I'm asked that question a lot. I said, well, Carl, why is the legal profession so against First and 14th Amendment associations? Well, yes, because you remember I told you that they also say this principle is not confined to any field of human interest. And one of those fields of human interest is the interest we got involved in, the legal area, right? And if there's a bunch of people like me going out and forming what? Private legal association, they're afraid they'd be out of business, and they couldn't buy their Mercedes-Benz for their kids and send them to Harvard. Isn't that sad? Don't you feel bad about that or not? I think that's the answer, but there are probably some other reasons too. Okay, now, I've even not given you the full story. Remember I said you have this right, freedom of association, through the First Amendment. What? Have you all been reading your Constitution lately? Probably not. Huh? Okay. Well, that's okay. Because in the Constitution, it doesn't say anything about freedom of association. What does it say in the First Amendment? The right to assemble. But see, the U.S. Supreme Court has taken that little phrase and interpreted it how? How do they interpret that phrase, right to assemble? Or, I'm sorry, freedom of assembly.
Right to
The
associate.
right to freedom of association. Because they have a right to do that versus what? Marbury versus Madison, right? Okay. Now, have you all been reading your Fifth Amendment?
Yeah, right.
Do you know what the due process clause is? What is the due process clause of the Fifth Amendment? That life, liberty, and property cannot be taken away without what?
Due process.
Due process, okay. Now, how many years have you been a citizen of the U.S., sir?
I'm afraid to answer.
Well, let's take that lady next to you. How many? Oh, come on now. Seriously? Okay, all right, I believe it. All right. Now, in those 54 years, surely you would know what some of your liberties are in this country, right? Isn't that sad? We're supposed to have all these liberties and freedoms in this country, but when I ask a citizen of many years what those liberties are, they don't even know what they are. Well, we've done some of the homework for you. Is that okay?
Yes.
So look on the next page there. I don't know, is it number 5 or what page is it? Where it says freedom of association at the top of the page. You on that page? So here's where the U.S. Supreme Court now is taking that phrase from the Fifth Amendment, okay, where remember life, liberty, and property will not be taken away, and then went ahead and defined for us in several court decisions what the liberties we have in this country. Why don't somebody, well, I guess I can read them. Somebody read those for us, okay? What are some of the freedoms that we have? The freedom of what?
Bodily restraint.
Bodily restraint. Makes sense, right? The right of the individual to? Contract. Right to engage in the common what?
Occupations of life.
Right. The right to acquire?
Useful knowledge.
The right to marry? Right. The right to?
Establish a home.
The right to?
Bring up children.
The right to?
Worship God according to the dictates of one's conscience.
Okay. The right to?
Enjoy those privileges law recognizes from common law.
Okay, now stop right there, stop right there. If some government agent or agency came by and tried to take away any of these liberties from you, you'd be outraged! Right or not?
Yes.
Well, you better be. And would you put up with it, or would you fight back? Okay. So now read to me number 10.
Right of freedom of association.
See, the U.S. Supreme Court says what? That the right to associate, okay, is the same, on the same level, the same category, the same company as who? As these other rights that you typically think, what, are automatic, right? So why is it then that you think that you couldn't have freedom of association and follow some lawyer telling you that you can't do this thing? Then you're going to get in a lot of trouble. Because now we have, what is our support for this thing? And now it's the First Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, now also it's well, how does that 14th Amendment enter into that? We see the first 13 amendments had to do with the federal government, the 14th Amendment had to do with the state. See, so both state and federal what? Because also they have that same language about the liberty due process thing in the 14th Amendment. Now, do you know anything in law that has more backup, more support, more constitutional provisions than the freedom of association? If you do, I want you to tell me right now. Tell me what it is. Tell me something in law that has more support, more backup, book, chapter, and verse, than freedom of association under the First, Fifth, and 14th Amendment. Well, if you can't do it, what? You better get pretty serious about what? I'm sorry? Well, yeah, at least I would check it out. And if I was in the profession that you're attempting to get into, I would what? I would get associated and only deal with what?
Members.
Private members of your private association. Does that make any sense or not?
Yes.
All right, if you want to turn to the next page then, I don't know if we have to go through all these. I mean, you know, sometimes you can get redundant on things, did you know that? I mean, you have so much backup, it just keeps coming and coming, and you get weary of listing them all, you know what I'm saying, or not? Here's 10 different reasons why you can do a freedom of association. And number one should work. Because when we formed this great country, okay, we could have chosen what?
Freedom of conscience.
A legal system. We could have chosen English common law or what? Statute or civil code. Right? Which did we choose? Did anybody
Naval.
know?
Naval.
I'm sorry?
Naval?
I'm sorry.
Thought it was the naval law.
No, we chose English common law as the basis of our legal system. Okay? Both federal and all the states. Now, you might say, well, what about Louisiana? Because everybody says, well, Louisiana, you know, they chose civil. Well, yeah, they did it first, but guess what happened later? They've got numerous court decisions now that say, what, even in Louisiana, we follow the common law, English common law. Okay? So I would say basically all 50 states. Now, what is the basic principle of common law? We know we follow common law. What is the basic principle of common law that we live by? Well, common law says you can do anything except what the law specifically forbids. Right? Now, if you're going to live in a country where you have liberty and freedom, isn't that what you'd want to choose?
Yes.
Because what does civil code say as a basic principle? That means a civil code says you can't do something unless there's a specific statute that allows you to do it. That's crazy. Right? You can't do anything unless what? There's a specific statute that Congress or the legislature passes that allows you to do it. Where's the freedom in that? Now, so my point is that these lawyers that say we can't do this freedom of association, what's my argument there? Show me a statute that forbids what? And if you can't find it, what? It doesn't exist, that means I can do it. On that principle, we'll just tear off the rest of the page because we don't need anything else, do we? So just tear off the rest of that page because number one should be sufficient, right? You got no law against it, what? So why are you saying then that we can't do this stuff? Well, what is number two?
Common law legal entity is regulated by contract articles, not by.
Yeah, the amazing thing is that when you form this association, that association also becomes a separate legal entity just like a corporation or something else that you operate through. And its articles now, not the state legislature, not the statutes, regulate what you're going to do in your association. That's the best way to have it, right? I mean, does it get any better than that? That you can do your own articles of association under common law and regulate your own private membership association? Does it get any better than that? And of course, number three we've talked about. We already know it's under 1st and 14th, right? Well, also, it's not a U.S. Constitution. Did you know every state constitution has what? A similar provision about freedom of association. Okay. Oh, and number four we've already talked about. You know, all these Supreme Court decisions that say what? That if you can do business in this country from what? The best kept secret, in my mind, in the whole United States in the legal field is what?
Private.
That you can do business, legal business, as a private or public. domain, okay? Oh, number 5 too, it kind of is amazing. There are numerous cases that say what? You know what police power is? You know what I mean when I say police power? That's like these agencies try to come around and regulate you, right? Or try to take your license away, or try to say you have to do this, this, and this. That's police power. But these cases say what? Police power is to protect the public, we know that, but no, they go the step further. What's the step further? It's only to protect the public. Does that little word only change the meaning there a little bit or not? Well, it's only to protect the public. So that means what? If they try to do something in the private side, that's not your jurisdiction and authority. You're on the wrong side, right, or not? All right, now we talked about number 6, right? Remember that liberty interest or not? That the Supreme Court says one of your liberties in this country is specifically freedom of association. All right, now one thing about constitutional rights, though, because, see, there's actually 3 aspects to the law that even lawyers sometimes don't understand. There's the law itself, there's the facts, and there's interpretations of the law. If you go to court, you'd be crazy not to argue all 3. Because you know what the old saying is on that, don't you? Well, if you don't have the law, then you argue what? The facts. Okay, if you don't have the facts, you argue the law. No, wait, no, you argue the law. And if you don't have the law and the facts, you argue the interpretation. Right? And the interpretation is, for First and 14th Amendment and Fifth Amendment association, is what? That has to be broadly construed. But if there's anything to prohibit what we're doing, if there was a statute, they came up with a statute, which they could try to do, that has to be what? What they call strictly construed. It's a different test. All right, now, number 9 also is very, very important. I think it's just as important as the freedom of association. When you form your separate legal entity, your private medical association, right? That's one entity on one side, okay? Then you only deal with what? Private members, right? But those private members contract with what? The private association. And so that contract between the private member and the private association is also protected by the U.S. Constitution. Isn't that terrific or not? I mean, I just said. Oh, I absolutely. So Article 1, Section 10 of the U.S. Constitution says what? That no state can pass any law impairing the obligation of what? A private contract. That's also another legal protection for us, okay? Because we do private contract between what? The private member and the private association. And of course, number 10, of course, it's upheld by numerous Supreme Court decisions. Now, one thing too I need to point out is that just because legal-wise we're a private membership association, we still live in the United States of America, and you still have to file tax returns, okay? Federal tax returns. And the code says that you're taxed like a subchapter C corporation. So you file 1120 tax return. Now, typically, a lot of our members zero it out at the end of the year. If there's any net income, they pay it out as a trustee fee. Okay? So it may be an information return, but they don't maybe pay much taxes because they'll zero out the net income to 0. Okay? Which is something I would recommend that you do what you want to do. The one advantage is a corporation, as you know, is only taxed 15% on the first $50,000 net income. Now remember, I told you if you hire an attorney to do something for you, you know, you're number what?
4.
Okay. If you would happen to get involved with Pro Advocate Group, we're with the group that you're dealing with here, which is probably going to do some things for you with your private association. You're number 1. You don't have anybody else. higher priority than you are. Okay? That's what we're here for, to help you. Now, that's basically what I have to say. I will take on as many questions as you want, okay? Questions, sir?
Does this apply across state lines to work within the continental United
Absolutely, absolutely.
States? Once you travel from state to state?
Well, remember, you're outside the jurisdiction and authority of all state and federal authorities. What does that mean? That means you cross all state lines. Doesn't matter what state you're in. Oh, hey, I'm sure glad you brought that up. You know, this turned out beautiful the other day for a licensed medical doctor that called me up and he said, this doctor, I think, is in North Carolina. He's a worldwide famous doctor on certain modalities, okay? But when he does telephone conferences with some of his patients across state lines, these states where the patient is located is trying to come after him from unauthorized practice of medicine. And yet he's licensed in what?
His state.
North Carolina. So he wants this association so he can do telephone conferences with patients that don't travel to North Carolina to see him. Does that make any sense? Yep. Because he could be charged with a criminal felony for a telephone conference with a patient over in South Carolina, right? That's crazy, isn't it? So yes, sir. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Clarify, if you were retired and wanted to travel throughout the United States.
Absolutely. I have doctors that are doing that now. In fact, they gave up their license, or they haven't renewed their license, right? So they really have no license, even though they were licensed. But now they're traveling and they have patients all over the United States and the world. But they're only dealing with what? Public patients?
Private members.
Right.
So everyone that they treat then signs a contract with them as a private member.
Right.
Does this apply in other countries? Do you know the laws of Sweden or Europe or anything like that?
Right. Do you say, do I know?
Yeah. I mean, would you be able to have a private association?
Well, you'd have to almost take that on a country basis. We know, we've done the research on common law countries like Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Hong Kong. It used to be Hong Kong. I don't know if that's true now today. But if it's a common law country, yes, we can usually, it works there. Now, whether it works in some of those other countries, I haven't done the research on. Okay. Question?
Thank you.
How does the internet play a part at all? Or does
Oh, big part. Oh, I didn't finish. Did I finish the story on precision herbs? No. Oh, well, you should have spoke up. Okay, so precision herbs. Okay, so 3 weeks later, because these 6 agents, remember, hadn't taken an oath of office, right? And then, of course, we pointed out to them, and then there were 6 other letters that we point out other defects. Well, okay, I gotta stop here again. There's an important court case that you all need to know about. Now, either lawyers don't want to know about it, or they're just ignorant, okay? And I don't think they're ignorant, but they don't know about it. It's called the Accardi Doctrine. You ever heard of the Accardi Doctrine?
Nope.
A-C-C-A-R-D-I. Now, if you're a good lawyer and good at defending doctors and practitioners and so forth, or association, you would have to know, I would think, the Accardi Doctrine, okay? Because what does the Accardi Doctrine say? Anybody know?
No.
Well, it was passed in 1955. What have you been doing? You mean you don't read court decisions when you go to bed or not? Well, yeah. Well, you can ask my wife. Back in the younger days, I used to read court decisions until 3 o'clock in the morning almost every day.
To her?
Over and over again, in fact. Some of those cases, I mean, you read them, you got to read them again because you don't really understand what they're saying. But anyway, a Accardi Doctrine says what? A government agency must scrupulously follow its procedures or the courts must strike it down. Mandatory language, must strike it down. Do you all get that or not? So do you think I ever used that case?
Oh, yeah.
Or not? Oh, yeah. But I've never seen a lawyer that defends practitioners or anything else hardly ever use the CARDI. It's not been overturned. Look it up on the internet. Right? Or not? Yes.
It doesn't matter where you live, if
No,
you
no,
have the
no,
internet
no,
as
no.
in common, that's your membership.
Right. Now, here's a good question along with that. Remember Precision Herbs? See, they're not even, they're advertising their private association, their herbs, through their private medical association on the internet. And on the internet, I think it says, it gives references where their private members have used their herbs from their private association and they have been successful in curing cancer. Okay, now my question is then, why hasn't the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, swooped down on them and did what?
Shut down.
Shut them down. Now remember, when I was dealing with them and got them in association, that was October of 2009. Okay. Now, the rest of the story on that, though, I think is good, is because one of the things we did besides challenging the agents and the procedures, you know, with the CARDI doctrine, okay, is that we got Precision Herbs to change over from an LLC to what?
Private membership.
Medical Association, okay? But before we did anything, as far as manufacturing, we wrote a letter to the FDA, and a friend of mine said, well, why in the world would you do that? They're the agencies coming after you. Well, the reason we're doing it is what? We want to eliminate the criminal. You see, if you tell the federal government what you're going to do, even if it is criminal, ahead of time, then they can't bring criminal charges against you. Did you know that? Isn't that smart or not? Now they come back to you civilly, yeah, but that eliminates the criminal. So I wanted to get the criminal out of the way. Because, you know, he was concerned. I mean, at first they were telling him that he was going to go to jail for life. Now, I don't know if that'd scare you, but it would me. Yeah. And I've been in jail. We've never gone to jail, you know, there's a lot more fear because when you get there, it's really not that bad. You know, being away from your family is the worst part, of course, right? So we wrote a letter to the FDA telling them exactly what we were going to do with this new private membership association called Precision Herbs. Okay? And said what? Unless you have some valid objections in the next 10 days, we're going to proceed manufacturing these herbal products and selling them not to distributors like we did before, but to private members, right, that will market these products for us, okay, as local chapters, okay. So if you have any objection, you better let us know if it's working. I mean, it is full force ahead. I mean, okay. Of course, that was what, October of what?
2009.
And we've never heard from them again. Now, another problem that they had too, a real concern, is that how do we advertise now on the internet? We said, well, very carefully, right? Because on the internet, what you're going to say, what? You're going to say, well, we have the herbal products that we manufacture within the private association through local chapters, okay? And we have some members that have used these herbal products, and these members have actually had experience of the benefits and advantages of curing cancer, yes. Okay. But underneath that, for private members only, right? We don't want to be misunderstanding about that, right? For private, did you catch that? For private members only? So I mean, I could give you a lot of war stories here. That's probably the best example of success that we've had where there was a serious challenge, the worst case scenario, because most people are scared to death of the FDA. You mentioned that those two little alphabetical letters, and they go nuts on it, you know, crazy. And that we don't worry about that, right? Now, these FDA agents and the superiors, they must have known something. I mean, what else can we do? We made a full disclosure of what?
Intent.
And some of the backup that we gave, if you want to look at some following pages here, probably is some of the stuff that we've given you out today. We told what we're going to do, and of course we did give it the backup for it. Oh, wow, I forgot one little thing. Oh, I'm very sorry. At the end of the letter, though, we said, well, if you decide to violate our civil and constitutional rights in this country, what? We might entertain filing a Title 42, 1983 civil and constitutional rights lawsuit against you individually. These things, I mean, I'm sorry I forgot to tell you that little part, because what happened in 1992? Oh, come on now. Surely somebody out there, your friend, your lawyers or your law school, or somebody's telling you what the law is, right? And helping you out and telling you what our rights are. But see, before 1992, if you could only sue these people in their official capacity. And what happened if you just sue them in official capacity?
Nothing.
Well, why? Yeah, nothing, but why was it nothing? Well, because, we have sovereign immunity as an officer of law, right? So they dismiss it, get it dismissed. It was hard to prevail on a lawsuit against a government official. Why? Because you were suing them in their official capacity. But what happened in 1992? The U.S. Supreme Court, which is
The supreme law of the
the
land.
law of the land, says what? You can now sue that individual in his individual capacity only. That means, theoretically, he can't even use the government, the U.S. Attorney's Office, to help defend him. He has to hire his own private what? See, we're now getting their attention. Are you following me or not? Man, that's a major breakthrough. When that happened, I just couldn't believe it. So now you're a government agent, and somebody from Gravity Group sends you a letter and say, well, if you violate my rights, you're going to be sued in your individual capacity only. Is that going to get your attention or not?
Yes.
So it's okay that we put that in our letter or not?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, just checking. Now, you see why, too, that Precision Herbs has been operating since October of 2009, and they're not even contacting Precision Herbs. And can you find them? Get on your computer. We're not hiding. Right or not? Okay, any other questions?
What about marketing membership? Can be done on the internet or otherwise?
Absolutely. But remember, you have to be careful, what are you marketing?
A membership.
Make sure it's a private membership in a private what? Membership
Association.
association.
Thank you.
That's it? Man, I must have did a great job.
You did. You did.
Well, question?
I'm just curious, as a layperson in all of this, how do you fill out a form to get started, or?
I'll get there.
Oh, you're gonna get there.
That'd be me. Pick me. One more question? Another question over here? Oh, so we weren't really done yet.
One more. So do you have to like on a?
Wait for the mic, please. Hang on.
So on this, do you have to like on a C corp or S corp? You have to pay every year a due. Is that the same with this? Do you have to pay
Pick
every year?
me. Pick me.
No, this is a common law private membership association. And here's the amazing thing. It doesn't have to be registered. Okay? It doesn't have to be chartered, franchised. with the Secretary of State. Doesn't have to be recorded anywhere unless you just want to with the county recorder. And so there's no yearly fees, and there's no filing requirements or nothing. And it operates in all 50 states that way without having to charter as a foreign corporation in a state other than your own resident state. So it saves you a bunch of money over if you're doing, as you know, if you're doing a corporation or LLC, right? Yes. Good question. I'm sorry, I should have answered that. I just forgot.
More questions? Don't be shy. Yes?
What do we need to know about the EIN number?
Okay, good question. That's another thing that is done for you through the doctor here, is that you'll have the Articles of Association under common law, okay? Now, because you will be probably filing a tax return, at least an information return, you'll need an EIN number from the IRS, okay? Which we can help you with. And then use that for your bank account that you set up for your private association, and also on your 1120 tax return, yes. Which is fairly easy. I mean, sometimes they give you a little problem because the agent that you get on the other line has never heard of a private association before. You know, so, but we have been successful in getting an EIN number for 39 years, okay? So,
As far as being a doctor and dealing with insurance and then switching to this private membership association, do you still bill insurance?
on the insurance?
Yes, sir.
Do you bill insurance? Do you bill insurance, Carl?
I'm sorry?
Do you bill insurance?
Well, here's what typically our doctors do that have private associations, okay? Is that they give the member, because it's not a patient anymore, right? The member what they call it, something like a super bill or something like that. Okay. And if they're licensed, they'll submit that, have that member then submit that to the insurance company, okay, to get reimbursed. Now, typically we thought that was going to be a real big problem 20 years ago. Our experience on that is that our members have been successful probably about 70% of the time in getting reimbursed. Not 100%, no.
Get out of network from.
I'm sorry?
It's like getting out of network.
Yeah.
Here comes the mic. Hang on.
So are there membership fees or dues optional or required?
Now that's something that if you have your association or you deal with the association that you're going to be part of, that's part of what they can set up. There's different ways you can do that. It's very flexible now. You can have, now in private group, we have lifetime membership fees. Now, we tried the dues thing, and just for us it didn't work out that well, but you can have lifetime membership fees, you can have yearly dues, you can have monthly dues if you want, I guess, or structured any way you like. Okay?
I'll talk to that.
Thank you. So I apologize if you've already answered this with her question, but if we have an existing S-Corp with an existing EIN number, do we have to dissolve that and recreate it, or we use the existing S-Corp?
Well, remember now, that entity is what? Is it a common law entity?
Public.
Public. You got to remove you're removing ourselves from the public domain or realm, and we're moving into the what? Private. And the only way you do that is in common law, yes. Okay. So does that answer the question?
So yes, you have to dissolve it and start over.
Yes. Now, okay, let me give you another part of that. Now, if you have some assets that you want to keep in your LLC and lease them back to your association, you could do that. So, but you don't operate your membership association through that public one. Do you understand what I'm saying? Sometimes, people are bought whole complexes with their LLC, and they say, well, Carl, I just can't sell this thing. I want to keep it in there for a while. Well, that's fine. Just if you're using that complex or those offices or that medical part for your association, just lease it over to your association. You see what I'm saying?
Or you have to sell it, though. If you dissolve, you can just sell it outright.
Yeah, you can
Sell it, which would be a taxable transaction.
Can you hold those assets inside of the association?
Oh, yeah, oh, sure you can, yeah. But I'm saying some people decided they would rather do the leasing rather than then they could transfer all of those assets to the new common law membership medical association, yes. It can hold assets just like a corporation or LLC, yes. Yeah.
Is that it? Let's give Carl a big hand. There's some things that I want to cover. Why don't you just hang out up here with me?
Oh, that'd be fine.
Just in case anybody asks any questions, because I might get stumped.
Oh, no.
I flew to Dallas a month or so ago and spent a day with Carl, and we went through all of this to determine if this was the direction that I think we should head in. So let me explain a few things to you. Number one, this is about forming a private membership association that we are going to do in Mortar Health System. We're there. We will have our association. All of our members will be required to be part of that association. And there'll be a fee for that. It'll probably be $10. Woo! Then you will be part of the association. That means when we assemble as a group, like here, we're all protected out here. No one can bother us because we're part of a private group. No one can come in and say it's medicine without a license, or you did something to hurt someone. When you join a private association, you give up the right to file suit against another member in the association. So if you're working on someone on the table, you're protected. Nobody's going to bother you. You could decide whether or not you even wanted to have malpractice insurance. It wouldn't be necessary if you're working in the private because nobody's going to come after you there. So I do want to make sure that you understand this is not about income taxes. This is not a way to avoid taxes. That's nothing to do with taxes. Your club is taxed just like a corporation, at 15% on the first $50,000. So this is not about taxes or how to reduce taxes or anything about that. This is about how to limit your liability out there in the public arena and move it into a private arena, just like Jen is a private club. Okay, there's a reason for that. Do you ever read all the things that are in there when you sign to click on the website every time?
Yeah.
That's the contract, that you're in a private club. And when you get kicked out of the club because you screwed up, tough, you're gone. You've got no right. You might think of some people in Jen that have been kicked out of the club. I crossed the line there, I apologize for that. You know, you play by the rules, you stay in the club. Simple, it's real simple. So let's just walk through this for just a moment, what it would look like for you. We're going to form, we're in the process now of forming and negotiating with Carl about forming a worldwide club. Okay? A worldwide club. Now, it would be in the countries that we know this would work. So it's worldwide asterisk, common law, for sure. And then people who join our club, it's $10 to join the club. Now, at that point, this is where you want to pay attention. Now you're part of the club. That means if you're coming here, you're doing things with Mortar Health System and our functions, whatever we're doing on the phone, et cetera, you're part of that association. I'll stop using the word club, I'll use association. You're part of this association, this entity that has the Supreme Court rulings. It really can't be questioned. Now, you say, well, you know what? I want this protection in my practice. See, this is our practice, okay? We're paying the big bucks to have this done so that you're in our practice. I'll recoup some of the money for that by you paying your fee to be part of the club. All right? Now, the association, thank you. If it's $1, Tom's going to nail me every time. Best release, best release, best release. Okay, so then you could become a local chapter of the club. Okay?
Yeah.
Now there's a fee for that. That's the fee for that. And you're not going to have to spend the $20,000, $18,000 or $20,000 just to start. We're in negotiation for that. What that will be for you, it will be substantially, exponentially less than that for our group because we're a large group. Okay? So you will purchase that right to have a local chapter of a private association, all right? Of the bigger association, a local chapter. You'll recoup your money for that investment because all of your clients, patients, etc., will pay you a fee to be part of your club. They could pay a fee to be part of the club. They could pay a yearly fee if you want it. However you want to do that. So if you're going to see 1,000 patients and you charge them $20 a year to be part of the club, there's $2,000. Boom. This is how you recoup your initial investment. Does that make sense? Now is it starting to fall into place for you? I just want to scare you to death first about what you're doing and then show you how this is going to be okay. Now then, all of the people that you work with, your patients, or they wouldn't be patients anymore, they're members of your private association, clients, whatever you want to call them, they're members of this private association, give up the right to sue you, as long as your association will be fine, as long as you have no intent to do evil.
Right. Clear and present danger of substantive evil, as long as you don't rise to that level with us.
Clear and present intent to do evil. You wouldn't want a conspiracy to kill someone in the government or something. Glad Ed's not here. So as long as you meet that criterion, then you're protected. In your club, you couldn't murder someone in the club and be, you know, that wouldn't be part of this arrangement. They'll sue you. You're going to go to jail. Okay, you couldn't do that. Those were the different types of law that Carl was talking about. But in this scenario, it takes you away from the auspices of the government. Okay? Now let me explain what that looks like for you. Those of you that are licensed, you have to go through hoops and whistles and bells all the time to maintain your license. You may choose that you don't want to do that anymore. And you could be in the club and practice your art in the club unlicensed.
That's right. To private members.
To private members in the club without a license.
Right.
Those of you that don't have licenses, that's you. Okay? You can have your club. You could start a practice. You could work with these people in your club. And nobody can touch.
You don't have to move to Mexico.
And you don't have to move to Mexico. You can do that if you choose. You could also maintain your license on this side of the hall in your office. You can have a license, you can file your insurance, you can deal with Medicare if you wanted to. Why you would, I have no idea. But you could. You could maintain that if you want. If you don't care about that, you can practice over here. If you want to keep your license, you'd have to still do your CEUs, your continuing education, whatever those requirements might be in your state. And you could maintain your license over there if you just didn't want to give it up. But if you choose to practice over here, here's the advantage to over here in this private sector. This is why you want to play in this game. In this arena, you don't have to fill out. What if I put a scenario out there for you? Picture this as your day. You get up, you go to work, you see a great volume of people, like happened out here today, because your fees are low enough that people can actually afford you. Okay? So your office, your practice is full. You get the buzz, just like what happened out there today. Was that pretty cool? Yeah? Was that cool? That was amazing. Close your ears, Carl. Because we were having fun out there. Don't rain on our parade on this one. Remember, it's just a jump to the left. That's tonight. That's tonight. Get ready. Carl, I hope you're going to come tonight to the banquet to do the time warp. Here we go. But just imagine you went to work. You didn't have to fill out an insurance form. You could charge this person $20 for what you're going to do. And you could do the exact same thing to that person and charge them $200 if you chose to. You can't do that now in your practice. It's dictated to you by insurance. And you're all scared to death of an insurance company coming in at any time and saying, we're going to do an audit, you owe us $100,000 plus penalty. Right?
Yeah.
Right? Everybody say, yeah, that's right.
That's right.
You would never have that again. You'd never have to fill out an insurance form. Hang on. You'd never fill out a report. You don't have to stay late writing stupid reports to justify the treatment that you gave someone. You'd never have to do that again. Ever again. Let me tell you what, that's a pain in the rear. You would never have to worry about a Medicare audit. You can actually work on Medicare patients, elderly patients, outside of the whole system, which you cannot do now.
Right.
You can't just say, I'm not going to play in that game.
Right.
Because they are owned by the government.
Right.
Really, they're owned. And when they come to see you, they're part of the government, really. And they own them, and you have to do certain things, even if you don't participate.
You also don't have to worry about HIPAA.
Oh, I'm getting there, don't worry. How about you like all that crap? You wouldn't have to do any of that. You wouldn't have to keep medical records. You wouldn't have to keep medical records. You wouldn't have to justify anything in the private club. Your fees could be lower, more people will come. Your practice will be fun, and when the day is done, you can go home at 5 o'clock. You will make more money than you do now because you won't have to have high malpractice insurance. You won't have to have 4 people on your staff that file all those dadgum insurance forms and call to verify insurance and all that garbage. Think about this. I'm serious. I'm serious. You don't have to have HIPAA in your pocket all the time, and you have no fear of someone coming in there to audit your practice or to tell you that what you're doing is not up to par. No fear whatsoever. How many think that might be a good idea? And if you don't have a license, you're completely protected from some medical board or chiropractic board or physical therapy board coming in and saying, you're doing that without a license, we're going to charge you with a felony. Right?
Yep.
A felony. Now you see why I flew to Dallas?
Thank you.
Are you guys interested? Let me see if I show up. Yeah? Okay. Thought so. Thought so. Thought so. It would be rude not to. Question?
How complicated is this going to be for people coming into as practice members? Are they going to have to fill out some kind
How complicated is, what's the logistics on complications when one of our club members comes in, or a person comes in and they're going to join this club? How complicated it is? What do they have to sign?
Very
Is it a big
simple,
deal?
very simple.
Very simple.
And your local chapter could be set up in 1 or 2 days.
We could set that up, but when the person actually comes in to join their other club,
The 1 page of maybe some information that we need from you.
1 page of information, they sign it at the bottom.
Right.
You would charge them. You can do whatever you want for that. You can charge them $10, you can charge them $100. Depends on how fast you want to recoup what we're going to have to charge you to be a local chapter.
Right.
And I don't know what that number is yet, but I can tell you, you're going to like it. I've never let you down yet. Right? I've never let you down yet. Okay? Filling out the form.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me understand which form now you're talking about.
He's talking about.
Membership, association membership form.
They had, Carl, let me set the
chapter.
stage. They have a local chapter, and this physician, someone's coming in to see them as they're coming in as a new patient, but then at some point, it's going to be, the conversation is going to flip over that you're going to be part of this membership. What's that involve? It's a 1-page form?
No, that actually is a 2-page form. You sign it at the bottom of the 2nd page.
Then they become part of
Now,
your...
that could be made simpler, but I'm just saying typically we recommend a 2-page form.
Which makes them part of your private association.
And in that 2-page form, is there any part, like with Medicare, you actually have to read for the AHHB Advanced Holistic Healthcare Notice? Is there ever an argument where someone signs the form, but later on they go, oh, I really didn't know what I was joining?
Well, one of the paragraphs in there spells that out, that you
Okay.
fully understand, blah, blah, blah.
So they have to
Legal
read it.
language that
So I'm
And
sure-
that's legal protection.
Right, I'm sure there's a paragraph there I haven't read yet. I'm sure the paragraph says, I'm not an idiot, I understand what I'm signing. Even though I'm old, I'm not an idiot.
Well, let me say, the first page, though, is the declaration of purpose. So basically, they don't even really have to read the first page, because that's the declaration of purpose that establishes the association, okay? So the second page is an important page.
So it's, and I've thought about this, so I'm thinking of the name of the association. What will this association look like? I'm thinking Integrated Health Association. Something big like that. Kind of rolls off the tongue. So you could say to your patient, you're going to be part of our club, part of our association, which is Integrated Health Association. It's a private club. And in this club, there are certain benefits that you're going to partake of. And here's the form that they would look at. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how I see that.
Does it have to have the board association?
No.
Doesn't have to.
They have associates group, I mean, several things.
Integrated Health Group. Health. I didn't like practitioners because your patient is not going to be a practitioner.
No.
So that didn't make sense to
No
me.
more
So
practitioners.
I spent 6 hours driving here from Rogers thinking about what the name of this was going to be. Integrated. Okay, all right. Question, yes?
Ted, what happens if the state chiropractic board or the government or somebody that says, you're out of bounds here, you're not doing what you're supposed to do? Who are we allowed? I mean, do we? Okay, we call
as a member. Who are you going to call me? Ghostbusters, right here.
Yeah, I mean, do we say, okay, just call this number?
Yes.
No, we don't have to worry about.
Okay, now here's the relationship that he has and you'll have with Private Group. We will properly defend the thing all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court at no additional charge, except maybe for filing fees, printing costs, and copying fees.
But that probably won't even be necessary once they find out at the very lowest level of, hey, you're wasting your time. That's right.
They will support you all the way to the Supreme Court if it goes that far. Now it's gone all the way to at least 2 letters.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Well, I've got 2 letters in.
2 letters. Did you guys get what that benefit is?
Yes.
That this association will defend you all the way to the Supreme
Well,
Court.
that's on a pro se basis, if you understand that.
What does that mean? Don't be whipping that stuff on us. What does that mean?
That means you'll be signing the plea. We do all the research, we do all the pleadings, even the Supreme Court writ of mandamus. All you have to do is sign it and send it in. As a pro se letter, you'll be defending yourself, but we'll have it be completely behind you. And it's worked out for all of our members, so don't be afraid to represent yourself pro se.
That's spelled out in the club membership, I guess, in case we get
Yes,
in trouble.
yes,
with
yes.
something, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
In the association membership. This is a no-brainer.
Oh, yeah.
There will be different levels of the private chapters, the local chapters.
Yeah.
There'll be different levels
Yes.
based on your exposure.
Right.
For example, someone working on a few of their people right there in their block and their family not doing much, that'll be a lower level association. Somebody who's a licensed physician, it'll be a higher level. There may be 2 or 3 levels in there. I'm not sure yet. I just have to look at that, and we have to discuss about how much potential work there may be involved depending on the exposure. Does that make sense? Okay?
Can I mention how more profitable my people are?
Yeah.
No. Let's talk about profit? No. Yeah. What are you saying? What are you saying?
Well, I had a naturopath that was making maybe $20,000 a year. And he's doing a lot of good for people. But starving to death at $20,000 a year. Okay, because he was so afraid to speak out. He was that, in fact, he was the hypocrite I talked about earlier. Okay? Because, he couldn't really say what he could do. So, but anyway, I got him involved in an association, okay? And he's on the internet website. And then a year and a half later, he called me, or I called him, I forget what it was. And I said, well, how are you doing? He says, Carl, you wouldn't believe I'm making the equivalent of $150,000 a year. I never thought I'd make that kind of money. And I've got more private members and being successful on my program. I said, thank you so much. It's amazing.
Some question over here. The potential is there for you to really expand. Think about this. Carl said something about the herbal company, and I immediately started thinking about our products and thinking about what we can and cannot say. We have supplements, so we're always afraid about what we're going to say. We have to put the thing at the bottom, has not been evaluated by blah, 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 blah. At this point, you can make claims into what you've done in your private association.
For your members.
For your members, people that are
And the
members of
results,
our
and the
private.
results. These are the benefits and advantages that our members have experienced. What's wrong with that?
And nobody can touch you with this. These are the benefits that our members have experienced. Just think about what that says. Think about your practice and what you want to talk about, what you could claim you could do or not do. Then just think about that. Now, I'm not saying to make exaggerated claims that are not true.
No, we're not
What if they're
saying
not true?
Well, no.
You can't say something's not true, right?
No, we don't do that. You don't have to do that now, so.
How would they word these? How will we do? We'll talk about that. How we can help them.
I would recommend an affidavit from the member if they're claiming great results, to have it on record.
Cover your, trust in Allah, but tie your camel. One clarification.
Yeah, I'm going out doing workshops now. I've done a couple in Pennsylvania. I'm going to Orlando.
Going out to do workshops, Pennsylvania.
How can I get these people as members?
Logistically, how would that work? If he's going to go to Pennsylvania to do a workshop from Texas to go there, logistically, have you had experience with this? How that you would get them to join his club so he could go do that, or would they need to be part of his club? What?
Well, for seminars, for example, we have a provisional membership fee. Of some lower value or something. And you can even give a refund. I mean, on my seminars, I have a money back guarantee on my seminars. If you don't like the seminar, you take your money back then, okay?
So logistically, that could be you're going to go in there, they could have a special seminar rate when they're there. Are you treating people while you're there? So you'd want them to be part of this.
Sign them up then.
Yeah, so you.
Yes, if you could, yes. Or sign them up while you're there.
While you're there. I mean, they could come to a seminar. You're not going to be doing something wrong or something you can be liable for just giving a seminar. And during the seminar, you sign them up into your club for $10. It's refundable towards a purchase if they made something or whatever you want to do. That's how logistically that would work.
Remember, in common law, you dictate how your organization or how your membership association is structured like that, on the fees and so forth. You dictate that.
Sweet. Yes?
So, this may be tied on to his question, but if we're going into spas or other organizations that require everybody there have a license, are we still covered and can we still treat? Or is it the same thing that you're telling him? Everybody who treats signs up.
Oh, yeah, everybody that treats has to become part of the association, that's what you're saying? Or
She's saying if she went into a business that had 6 massage therapists, and she was going to come in there and work, would they all have to be part of the club too, or could she just have her private thing and work with her people, her clients there?
Oh, she could just have her clients.
You could have your
clients.
thing. If they would let you
clients would have to be private members of your association.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, whether those people would want you to come in there with that,
that's a different
That's a whole different story.
Yeah, right.
That's a completely different story. That's a negotiation with you and the person who's going to hire you. Right behind you, right there. Turn around. Your other backside. There you go.
Would each individual practitioner be a local chapter, or would in my area where we have several practitioners already, would we collectively be a local chapter?
I would assume that each one would be a chapter.
Well, we would recommend each one to be a chapter. Now, the problem that I've seen with collectively, practitioners get together, remember now, it's the tax returns, the separate bank accounts, the accounting.
Just do your own thing.
That practically doesn't work out.
You've answered my question.
You would want to do your own thing, and trust me on this, it will be affordable enough that you'll be able to recoup your money.
As a practitioner, you should be able to do it yourself, yes.
You know, our goal will be to have you recoup your money in the first year. Get it all back.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then some.
And then some. Yeah. You're still going to be having more and more people come in.
Absolutely.
Yes?
My question is, say that I have a client who she's going to move out of state, and I want her to go to a mortar practitioner. She wants to have a mortar practitioner, and they're going to be in a totally different state, but they have their chapter set up. Is there going to be any problem going from my chapter to another chapter?
Well, she would join that for $10.
Yeah.
It's such a nominal fee, don't even, it's not, it's inconsequential.
So it would be necessary for her to join that?
I would think so, that would be a different chapter.
Yes.
Yes, okay. But just remember that that's such an inconsequential fee, it's just an add-on. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's better if you charge a fee, it makes it a legal transaction, correct?
Yeah, because of the contract, consideration is part of the contract. And the contract is a very important part of the support of this thing. You know, between the private member and the private association.
Carl, are those people clients or members?
No, they're not clients. Forget that word client in your vocabulary.
Or patient.
Or patient. Your members, your private members. Yes, I have to keep correcting some of my people out there.
I believe you just answered this question, but I have a client under my association and he travels to Chicago and wants to be treated while he's out of town. Something comes up. Can he see that Chicago practitioner under the same association? He's got to join that association. Same question. I mean, I guess that was the same one. It's more of a traveling thing.
Same question.
Okay.
You know, whatever the fee is for that.
Yeah.
$5, $10, $20. Refundable if you want it at some point. I don't know. You can. I was trying to keep your. Oh, now the questions. We're going to have to quit here pretty quick. Yes, hurry.
Oh, okay. For some of us who, as a massage therapist, doing different modalities, you know, acupressure, and I still do massage. I'm licensed as a massage. So, would we be covered under for any treatment that we do? Is that what you're saying?
In your club, you can do anything you want in your club.
That's in your declaration of purpose. Okay.
Technical, diversion of purpose. I meant to say that, diversion of purpose. How'd that slip past me? What was I thinking? You told me a surgeon could do surgery in the club unlicensed.
Yes.
If a surgeon lost his license, he could start a private club and he could do surgery in the club. Think about that. So, yeah, I think you can rub a dub and whatever you want to do on somebody. Do pretty well. Remember, it's the mind thing. It's just a jump to the left. Yes?
I think just a clarification on what she asked. If she started her own club, she could do that, but if she's a chapter of this, can she do that?
She's not covered in anything. If she's going to join our club, it's going to cost her $10 or whatever it's going to be, and that gives her no right to have anything on her. She's just a member of this club. If she's going to work on people, she needs her own private chapter, local chapter.
Okay, so as a chapter, you're not becoming a best chapter, you're becoming a private association. Integrated.
Of the bigger entity, the integrated practitioner, whatever we decide on that one.
And then and from that level, is the larger entity going to do any branding, marketing, promoting internet-wise, or will it be each chapter promoting this club individually?
That depends.
That's a good question. I don't know.
Well, that's dependent upon the relationship between the two, yes.
Yeah, I don't think people are going to come to see you because you're a member of an integrated health alliance association or something. I don't think so. But we may be getting more people in the club because with more people comes bigger and bigger and bigger footprint. Yes?
Two-part question. First part is, because this cross states line, if I'm a local chapter, it goes wherever I go within the common laws.
Yes.
Second part, do you have an idea of timeline when we could ultimately become our local chapters? In other words, when could I have my own local chapter?
Well, you're a walleye fisherman. A walleye, I'm showing you pictures fishing up there with cavities on it. That was fish on, in case you were curious about that. It's going to happen very soon. Very soon. Very soon, I promise. In my opinion, there's nothing more important than this right now, based on what I've learned and what I've seen for exposure and things that are out there. I really don't think there's anything more important for me to put my energies to right now, is to get this finalized and make this happen. All right? Hang on. Yes, sir?
You talked about it crossing state line. Does it cross country line? Meaning, like if I'm
Not all countries. Yeah, not all countries. No.
Common law, I'm a Canadian.
The laws in all countries.
If I'm a Canadian and I have a
Canada is in. We're good. Hi. Yes. Trish, Joseph, jump up here, and we're coming this way here and here, and then we're gonna have to break.
Okay, we're going to be working on a lot of gen members. It's going to be these private clubs. Will there be a recommended?
Sure. We'll make a recommendation about what you should charge to be in your club, but that's going to be entirely up to you, however you want to do it.
What about treatment costs? Or
about treatment costs are completely up to you in your club.
Okay, well, we would want to stay within some.
Well, that's a different topic. That's a different discussion about recommended treatment things. Different discussion completely. Has nothing to do with private associations. That's a different discussion. We'll get there. This way.
But if we're a subchapter under you, or chapter under you, then do we have to follow your rules of your club?
What's the story of that?
There'll be some general rules that you'll have to follow, yes.
There'll be general rules that you'll agree to, but I don't know if I want to set fees.
No.
I can't tell you what your word.
Let them have their discretion on fees.
Yeah, I'm not, this isn't about control, remember? This is about getting away from control. Yeah, get away from control. Yes?
If you retain your state license in order to be able to do insurance, does that license, is there anybody who is not affected by that license, or can the state association make demands of you on anyone, whether they are in the association or not? Or is it that the association members are no longer, if they're cash basis, are they no longer governed by the licensing?
Correct. That's correct, Carl. Your members of your local association are not under the control anymore of the chiropractic board.
That's right.
You can do anything you want to them in the private association.
Up to
And
that
you can
threshold.
still,
Up to that threshold.
up to the threshold. And you can still go across the hall and work over there and treat people and file insurance and Medicare and Medicaid. Why you'd want to do that, I have no idea, but you could.
But yeah, that's your discretion, yes.
It's your discretion.
So anybody that you wanted to still have be covered by insurance,
Yes.
they would not join.
No, they would not join.
Correct. Correct. If they're just dead set on that insurance and paying those fees, but I'm telling you, I have experience with practitioners that I've been to their offices, I've talked with them and spent time with them, and when you reduce your fee to what's similar to the copay, an average copay is going to be $40, $50 by the time it's all said and done with insurance. If you just charge them that, the insurance company loves you because you're not filing insurance. There's no paperwork. You're charging them that, they're going to pay that anyway. So why don't they just pay that and stay completely out of that game? You'll make a ton more money. You don't have to raise your fees to $250 a visit with all the modalities and things that you want to do. And then just try and collect what you can. And then, see, here's the deal. I have a friend who's a dentist. He told me when I was coming to meet you, Carl, I was getting on a plane to come meet you. I met him in the airport. He was going somewhere else. He said, Ted, I was telling him about this. He goes, oh my gosh, this is interesting. He said, because my overhead is 76%. That's his overhead. With the people to hire to fill out the insurance claims and do all this stuff. He's like, there's got to be a better way. This is a better way right here.
What about auto accidents?
Auto accidents, it's the same thing. You could treat them or you could not treat them. You know, if you're making a lot of money on the auto accidents and you like that and that's your gig.
No, what if you had an association member who had an auto accident? Now you're stepping outside of their insurance.
Someone could be a member of the club and they could be over here as well, Carl? Yeah.
Okay.
You can be a member of the club and treat him over here in the club, but if he goes through that door, he's in your auto insurance practice again, and you charge him, double amounts or whatever you're doing. I don't know. But you can do both. So a person could be a member of your club, and he could be in your insurance practice too. Probably not at the same time. I wouldn't do the same.
I have a physician in Houston. Remember I told you he has a big clinic. He's got 2 doors.
So on Tuesday, they could go over here and get chelation therapy.
That's right.
And on Wednesday, they could come over here and get treated for their auto accident.
That's right.
This is so easy. Don't make it hard. All right. Did you enjoy it? What? You're jumping up and down. I thought you were going to pee your pants.
Stop being in your head.
Okay. Have you enjoyed this today?
Yes.
feel that this will apply to you? Okay, all right. I've got some sheets in the back of the room back there somewhere. Mel's got them back there at the table. I'd like you to sign one of the sheets if you're interested. And so then we'll contact you and tell you more about it as this comes down the pipe. Well, let me just ask this question. Is there anyone in here who does not want to hear about it? Why don't we do that?
Yeah.
If you don't want to hear about this, sign the sheet. And I'll try not to send you any information about it. How about that? So there's only one person raise their hand. The rest of you, you don't have to go sign the sheet. We'll just keep you informed about what's going on. Would that be okay? Before I pursue this, and we go into negotiation, and we get this all figured out, I want to know for sure, are you really interested in this? Am I going down the right road?